Welcome to Law and Life Matters. I am your host, Masubala Mutumele, and thank you for joining us. In this episode, we focus a little more on the life aspect of Law and Life Matters, thus our topic, legal professionals and mental wellness. To help us explore this topic, we are joined by Life Coach Tracey Dube. Now, a little more about Tracey. Tracey is a certified transformation and life coach and founder of Positive Minds Africa. She is a qualified communication expert who's worked with multinational companies for over 12 years. Tracey seeks to help clients to communicate with ease and confidence, build healthy relationships, and achieve their personal and professional goals. We do hope that you will enjoy this episode. Hello, Tracey. Welcome to Law and Life Matters. How are you today?
I'm good, Masubala. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So pleased that you could join us on this occasion. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be here.
So, Tracey, tell us a little bit about how you became a life coach and what drew you specifically to working with professionals.
So, what drew me to be a life coach? It was my search for purpose. I was on a journey to discover why I'm on this earth, I guess, to discover what I'm passionate about, what gives me meaning, basically. I don't know if you've ever been there where you feel, things are going okay, but there's like a void. Something feels like it's missing. So I was quite intentional on discovering what my purpose is, and I landed on life coaching. And I fell in love with it. The reason why I chose to work with professionals was I wanted to merge my experience because I've been in corporate most of my adult life. So I wanted to merge my experience with my newly found skills and passion. So then I decided, what better way than to coach professionals, because at least I can base it on my experiences as well.
I see. That is so profound. And so what are some of the common challenges that some of your clients are faced with?
Sure, there's a lot. But if I were to maybe talk about the common ones only, I would say professionally, it's people who struggle to speak up, people who have a lack of self-confidence, people who struggle to achieve their career goals. Procrastination is also a big one. There's also people who struggle to build relationships. Networking is also a very common one. So those are the common areas of people that I work with. And personal lives, it's more of, again, achieving your goals, having a vision for your life, understanding, what your purpose is, as well as, again, relationships as well. But it's mostly on the professional front.
I see. I think that's so interesting because these are people who are, one can deem as already made it in a sense because they are working, they're in corporate, and yet here they are faced with some challenges that have to do with, as you've also mentioned, finding meaning and, speaking up and things like that. That is so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we take these things for granted, but it's things that have the power to slow us down when it comes to achieving our goals, our career goals. And when you start out in your career, nobody ever prepares you for what the world of work is like. And so you have people who are, I won't say born communicators, but you have people who just walk into a room and they command presence. And then you have people who have to sort of like put an effort to do that. So it doesn't come naturally for everyone, especially confidence. I mean, confidence affects a lot of people. Imposter syndrome, everybody goes through that phase in their lives, and for others it's a phase that lasts, you know, for a long time, and then it will impact their performance. It will impact, you know, their goals, when it comes to achieving career goals.
I see. So can you walk us through some of identifying and addressing self-limiting beliefs and behaviors that are holding people back from reaching their full potential?
So there are a few, but the process that we go through is to first identify what the challenge is, to first identify what the problem is. Because normally you don't go, I've got a self-limiting belief and therefore, you know, I need help, but it's rather, this is my challenge. And so when you're able to identify that challenge, they say change starts with awareness, acknowledging that I've got a problem. So we identify what the problem is. And I'm going to use an example. Say the problem is I struggle to speak up during meetings. So then we go into we focus on the scenarios, the when and the where. So when does this happen? For instance, it's during meetings with superiors, or when I have meetings with my peers, or whatever the case may be. So then the third layer is then getting into the deeper questions. So it's understanding what your feelings are when you are in that environment, when you are in that scenario. Like, what happens to your body? How do you feel? How do you respond? How do you react? What are your fears? Where do they come from? And so then we get into the deeper questions and the whys and the whats and the whys and the what. Once we get to the root of the self-limiting belief, we're then able to create solutions, and we get into solution mode and find ways and behaviors that are unique to the individual of how we can then overcome or change the narrative, because the belief is really changing what you believe about yourself. So then we get into that solution mode.
Okay.
But it is a process.
It is a process. I can imagine if a person has held a belief about themselves for years, it's not going to take one conversation. Ordinarily, it wouldn't take one conversation for them to release that belief about themselves.
Absolutely.
So then how do you help professionals navigate high pressure situations such as conflict in the workplace or things like burnout?
So there is no one size fits all approach, unfortunately. But what you find, and that's the reason for that, is we are all wired differently. And so we tend to deal with pressure differently. However, there is a common, I guess, behavior that tends to work for 99% of the people. And because, so what happens is when you're in conflict, in that moment that you are experiencing conflict, so your body may deceive you into doing and reacting in ways that you wouldn't want to, because your brain is on autopilot. It's going to respond or react the way that it knows how to. And so this is why you find people who will walk out of meetings or walk out of the room or after an argument, and then an hour or 2 hours later, they're like, I shouldn't have responded that way, or I should have calmed down, or I shouldn't, it's because, your body, and you will just react the way that it knows how to. And so what you need to do is get yourself in a state of calmness. And so there are different ways to do this, but when you're calm, you are able to think. And so you get yourself into that state of you are centered, you are composed because you want to maintain your composure, especially as a professional. If you're in a conflict at home, for instance, it's a different situation. You can respond however you want, depending on the relationship you have with that individual. But in a professional context, you always want to maintain your composure. And there are different ways to do this. So my absolute favorite, which you can never go wrong with, is breathing. And I know it sounds so easy, but I say this all the time: breathing will change your life. As soon as you know how to do it right, it will absolutely change your life. So it's taking deep breaths, before you respond. I also like to, other people like to count like 1, 2, 3 in your mind before you respond, so that while you're doing that, you are telling your brain to connect with, you're telling your body to connect with your thinking brain, your conscious mind. And that allows you to respond in a way that you would not regret later. So in conflict, you maintain your composure, you take deep breaths, and you allow yourself to be in a state of calmness, because then you're not going to react, but rather respond. So I know it's sometimes easier said than done, and it takes practice. It's something that you have to constantly practice. For burnout, burnout for me is a lifestyle change. First prize would be to not overwork yourself, but I know that, again, it's easier said than done. However, introducing activities that help manage the pressures of work, things like exercise. Exercise helps us relax. Exercise helps release those feel-good hormones in our bodies, and also things like changing your diet, getting enough sleep. Sleep is so important. The older you get, it becomes even more important. So get enough sleep, like 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours, whatever you believe in, because science says different things. And rest, try to rest as much as you can.
I found it so interesting that you mentioned the technique counting 1, 2, 3, so that your conscious mind can connect to your body, so that you don't react instead of responding. And I think to myself, how many times do we not even realize that we are reacting to a situation instead of responding to it? Because those are two completely different things. When one looks back later, we're like, oh, now the response is kicking in instead of the reaction. Ooh, so thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's very interesting. And so I just want to find out, how do you incorporate mindfulness and as well as other wellness practices into your coaching approach, and what results do you see this having for your clients?
So mindfulness is so important, and there are various ways of practicing it. For me, it really is the breathing techniques. It really is ways to activate your senses so that you're able to be present in a moment. Because also what we find is, going back maybe to the example of burnout, or going back to the example of conflict, or whatever situation you may be in, you may find yourself thinking about it afterwards, right? And when you're thinking about it, you are at home with your family having dinner, but you're not present because you're busy thinking about what happened.
And you're cringing.
And you're cringing, right? Exactly. So you have to practice mindfulness to bring yourself back in that moment. And yes, there are different ways to do that. Like I said, my favorite is breathing. That, again, even with breathing, there are different techniques to do it. But very, very quick one that I like to share with my clients is, in that moment, is just to activate your senses. So to activate your your hearing, activate your sight. And so you have to be intentional about, okay, what am I seeing? What is around me? What am I feeling? What am I touching? So those sort of things help to bring you back into that moment. There are sustainable ways as well. So meditation is a very popular one. People who meditate, and I mean, research even shows this, people who meditate tend to have less, they tend to respond more than the people who don't, because you are able to maintain, you're centered most of your time, and your body is connected to your conscious mind. And so meditation is it helps a lot. Other people who do not meditate, maybe breathing. So I tried meditation. It didn't work for me as much as it works for other people. So I do breathing techniques. So there are different ways to sustain, or habits rather, that help you sustain that sense of calmness and composure, because you will need it almost every day of your life as a person who works in high pressure environments. For those who don't work in high pressure environments, maybe not so much. But for people who work in environments where they feel, they're triggered, and they find themselves in conflict, or there's, it's high stakes environments as well. So you always want to introduce habits in your life that keep you calm, that keep you composed, where you're able to regulate your body, so that it's just in constant connection with your mind.
So how do you ensure that you don't adopt a one-size-fits-all approach to your clients, and that you customize each coaching session or encounter to an individual client?
Oh, that is so important. Any coach who gives you a one-size-fits-all approach, that's training and not coaching. So that's the difference. Training is when you are able to share something that everybody can use. And coaching is when you customize it to the individual's needs. And so what I do, and I think most coaches do this, is when the moment you realize that, okay, I've got a challenge, I've got a problem, I need help. Then we set up a consultation. And in that consultation, we discuss what your needs are, what your challenge is, what do you feel is the solutions are, what have you tried before. So I get to understand where you are and where you're trying to go, and the goals that you're trying to achieve. That way, I will then be able to say, Masibala, I think that this is the approach we should take, and it's going to take this long, and these are the different routes and directions we can take. Or I will even be honest with you and say, oh, I think you need something else. Maybe you need therapy. Maybe coaching is not something you should do right now. So I'll be honest with you as well. And that's why it's important to have a consultation, because then I need to understand where you are, what your needs are, and then be able to also advise you, and say, actually, maybe this is another route that you can take, or based on this information, let's proceed in this way.
Oh, that is so interesting. Thank you for mentioning the differences between coaching and training. And also adding to say that, at a later stage, you might find that a person actually needs something else other than coaching. I think you drew that distinct difference between the three things so clearly for me, and I hope for the viewers as well. How do you stay in up to date with the latest research and coaching practices so that your clients can benefit?
So I was fortunate enough to go through the coaching training, the certification process, which helped a lot because I learned so much. But while I was doing it, they also have, what do you call them? Almost like short courses along the way, or even after, that you can take, just to keep yourself updated. But I met quite a few coaches well when I was doing the program, and we stayed in contact after, and majority of them are based in Africa because our dynamics are similar. So we meet regularly, so that also helps as well. I love to read, I love to listen to podcasts and videos. So there are a few other coaches that I follow and listen to. And having a coach yourself as the coach is also important, because we are all human beings. We can all get in our heads. So every now and then you need someone who's going to also play that role of coaching you, so that you're constantly, so that not just agile, but you are open-minded at all times.
I see. And do you have a favorite success story or testimonial from an encounter with any one of your clients that you would like to share with us?
Oh my gosh, I have so many.
Please share.
um, no, not in a braggy way, but I say that because, and this is why we create testimonial archives, because then we can keep going back and just reminding ourselves and our clients, and reflecting on the successes. But on my website, positivemindsafrica.com, there is a page under testimonials, and some of them I post them there, others I post on social media. The beautiful thing about coaching is it is a journey. And because it is a journey, you will find that, and it's a self-discovery journey more than anything for the person who's being coached, because you will find things about yourself that you didn't know. You will learn, and there are things that you will also unlearn. There are tools that you're going to learn and that you're going to practice, but you will not be able to practice all of them in 3 months. And so what I find in most cases with my clients, I have clients that I coached 2 years ago who still text me and say, oh my gosh, I practiced this and it worked like magic. You have people who are like, I walked out, I was able to stand in front of the crowd and I was able to speak, or, I was able to stand up for myself, or you'd be so proud of me. So because it's a journey, you're constantly practicing and applying the tools that you would have learned in the period that we would spend together. And it's a lifelong process, because you're just practicing, applying, learning, doing. And that's why I prefer to work with professionals, because you are already doing, versus someone who's not going to be able to practice what they've learned, because then you'll forget it. So it's really beautiful stories. Sure, I say there's many, but the most beautiful thing about my clients is that they, whatever goals that we have set initially, we track at the end of the sessions, and then the last part of our sessions, or our time to get together, is clarifying those goals that are now going to move you forward to the next step, and then understanding how to get there. And so it's really great to get feedback, to say, just an example, there was one who was she's a CA, and she, as part of her vision board or her goals, she wanted to get an opportunity at this specific company. And then we went through tools and in terms of how to get there. And she got there, and when she sent me the message saying, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe it, and she sent me the offer, and she was like, I applied this at the interview process, and this and this and that. And so those stories for me always make me feel really proud, and I share them on social media, because I want others to see that coaching is really something beautiful that can change your life.
Sure. And what is that moment for you when you are coaching a client where you realize that coaching is actually working for this person? Is there a specific moment where it's like there's a there's a turnaround in their behavior or their mindset?
Yes, and that's why I decided to coach, because that feeling is something you can never take away. And I experienced it myself. Like I said, that I wanted to work with professionals based on my experience and the journey that I had been through, and changing my story as well, and now being able to help other people change theirs. So when I got that, not a revelation, but when I also experienced that turnaround in my life, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. When it happens to them, I understand how it feels, and I'm able to share in their joy, because honestly, my clients' successes are my successes. I cannot call myself a success if they are not achieving their goals and what they've set out to achieve initially. So it's a beautiful feeling, and it's something that I will cherish forever. And I even appreciate that some of them are even able to come back and say, oh my gosh, I'm still on this journey, and keep me updated. So staying in contact as well helps, and ensuring that people have accountability, not just, I guess, partners apart from, myself, because I may move on to the next client and the next client and the next client, but being accountable yourself, but also having an accountability partner in your life who's going to help you stay on track to achieving your goals as you proceed.
All right. Thank you so much, Tracey. So lastly, where can our viewers find you on social media or on the internet?
So they can find me on our website is positivemindsafrica.com, and I am on Instagram at Positive Minds Africa. I'm not too active on the other platforms, but yeah, Instagram at Positive Minds Africa.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for availing yourself to join us and help us unpack the importance of mental wellness to professionals today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.